It's the SKOR North Twins Show.
All right, SKOR North Extra Innings live on the SKOR North Twins YouTube channel. Sorry for the delay, folks. Clubhouse access took a long time. Alex Kirilloff, who I guess, was clearly just celebrating his monster home run, took a sweet time getting to us in the post-game presser, so I want to catch up with him before heading up here to talk with you. That's Alex Wested. I'm Declan Goff. This is SKOR North Extra Innings. You can hit the like button and the subscribe button for Minnesota Twins content. You can expect content from the majority of Twins home games, select road games as well, so we appreciate it. Hit the like button, subscribe button. We're knocking the door of 3,000 subs. Alex, Twins rally for a chaotic 7th inning, 8th inning, weird ball game, honestly, today. But obviously the highlight, Alex Kirilloff with a big blast to really put this game within the Twins' favor. His 5th home run of the year. He goes the other way for a 3-run bomb. He's been scuffling a lot lately over the last month. Over the past few games, there's been some maybe hints that that player that started the year and glimpses of last year was still in there, and maybe there wasn't injury issues or just ineffective issues. And I talked to Jace Tingler, who was kind of serving as acting media manager, I'd call it. Rocco is still managing. He's under the weather. Doesn't want to get people sick. I'm actually all for that. So Jace Tingler was the one who was doing a lot of the media availabilities for pre- and post-game this series. And I asked him yesterday about, do you think that there's still something right here with Alex Kirilloff? Is he getting out of this funk? Is this going to be trending back in the right direction? And, he's been hitting some hard hit contact lately. He told me he was finally happy to see some of those hard hit contacts drop in for base hits. And obviously the biggest one being a home run. So Alex Kirilloff, hopefully here, Alex, to you, I should say, trending in the right direction.
Well, that's what you hope for, too. Dex, coming into today with a 204 batting average, you were starting to get concerned about Alex Kirilloff and, the conversation about with just how well all the other outfielders are doing and how well other players are doing in that spot. The conversation started to happen about, well, which one do you move out? Do you move out Manny Margot? Do you move Alex Kirilloff? What do you do? And, Kirilloff today proved his worth. A big opportunity in a late-stage game. And, Bruce Bochy is a very hot-headed manager. He's been that for the majority of his career. But, with Laz Diaz behind the plate, you knew you were going to get some sort of shenanigans going one way or the other. You got that in this case with the Texas Rangers. But for Kirilloff, career batting average right now against Texas, 333 with 2 home runs. Happened to be one of the biggest home runs of the season for Minnesota. And, you're looking forward at this. Last week on Extra Innings, I said that the Texas Rangers were not the World Series defending champs that they appeared to be. And they show that again today. Their starting pitching hasn't been good enough, and their bullpen hasn't been good enough either. But it was still a position where, but prior to the Kirilloff home run, you look at the narrative for the Twins today. You look at that first inning where you have the bases loaded, you get one in, but you don't get more than that. And it kind of goes to just undermine and go over the struggles that this team has had with runners in scoring position today. Kirilloff saves the day at the end, and Paddock does a great job, but you still got to have more in that first couple of innings where when you have those feast opportunities, you have to be able to close them out and get runners in rather than just salvaging for one.
Yeah, Michael Lorenzen ran into some trouble there first inning and even second inning. Twins put runners, on and in scoring position, to your point, Alex, and then this weren't able to drive them in. And then he went on cruise control, essentially, from innings 3 through 6. He goes out there in the 7th, and this was one of the wackiest things, and we asked for clarification, too, because it was literally about a 10-minute delay from the time the final out was made in the top half of the 7th to, basically the first pitch being thrown in the bottom of the 7th. Lorenzen was laboring. Something was going on. I don't want to speculate. It looked like his lower half, just from my vantage point in the press box. He eventually can't go. And, Judd, the sports dad, Judd Zolgad, was sitting next to me for this game. And I said, actually, as much as this is a pain in the arse and, you want to get the game going, this is probably going to be a good idea for the Twins because they haven't been able to hit Lorenzen for the last 3 or 4 innings. And then to your point, they get a sacrifice fly from Carlos Correa that cuts the deficit to 1. Poor Carlos Santana, God love him. He's hustling his arse off out from second base. He's obviously one of the slower foot guys in the team. Credit to the Rangers for making a really good defensive play. But then obviously, in the 8th inning, the Twins do come through. To your point, they bailed themselves out of what's been a big problem for this team with his clutch hitting and runners in scoring position. And that Rangers bullpen, this is the defending World Series champions. They don't certainly look like it, especially that bullpen. David Robertson's still out there for his 16th, 17th season in the big leagues. Twins were able to finally put this game away once Lorenzen, they were able to chase him. Yeah, but thankfully you were able to get out of that because now, you are going streaking again, 4th straight win. It wasn't the prettiest way to get there. But Alex Kirilloff, I think, being the one that comes up with the big hit, and a guy who just doesn't show a lot of emotion. Alex Kirilloff's even keeled, I think, whether he's hitting 3-run bombs or striking out 4 times. I know that sounds weird, but today you saw the excitement on his face, and you saw his teammates get pumped because he's just a guy who doesn't ever get excited. He's the same face dude every single time. So I think for Kirilloff to really put the team on his back today, give them the win, it puts them back in the win. It keeps them in the win column. They're not losing any ground. Kansas City's coming here for 4 games after tomorrow, so the Twins did clinch the series win, but going for a sweep and coming up with Kansas City, you can't afford to lose any more ground. Alex Kirilloff made sure that wasn't going to happen.
Well, I think, too, you talked about the age of David Robertson and the age as well of Kirby Yates. They're both nearing the twilight of their career, if not, a year or two away from getting to that point. But there's still pretty good pitchers here in their later years where that ERA for both of them sitting at about 3. You got to give credit where credit's due. Kirilloff hit a very good pitch and was able to take advantage of that, put the Twins in the head. The big thing I think about with Texas is that this team from Minnesota, they played Texas well a season ago at 5-2, winning all the games here except for one and winning 2 out of the 3 down at Globe Life Field in Texas. There's a big opportunity here for, again, it's not the World Series champion Texas Rangers that they were a season ago, but it's a top-time contender in the American League that you're looking to make a statement against. And if you want to go out there and, sweep the series tomorrow, that's a big statement early on in the season. Yeah, it's already Memorial Day, but this is an opportunity to say that, again, for the streakiness that the Minnesota Twins have been all season long, you have some success with that consistency now. Maybe it was getting the right rally sausage back in the dugout. Who knows? But at the end of the day, the Twins are picking up wins again, and that's what matters most for this team. Currently in that 6th wild card spot, but obviously with eyes on much, much bigger things.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. We're recording this at about a little before 5 p.m. Central Time on Saturday. The Royals are still playing the Rays. The Guardians are going to play the Angels. Throughout the course of this winning streak, the Twins actually have not gained a single game in the division because Kansas City and Cleveland keep winning. So you can control your own destiny now. If Kansas City comes to town and you win those ball games, you can at least catch the first team that's in front of you in the Kansas City Royals. On Paddack, you mentioned Chris Paddack there. So he kind of labors his way a little bit to just a short start. Wasn't able to get the quality start, but was still mostly effective today for the Twins. They brought in Thunderberg because the Rangers were going to have their run of lefties there to come up in some really, really big hitters, and they obviously wanted the lefty-lefty advantage. Paddack has been working on a new position of his glove. I don't think I talked to you about this last weekend because he pitched on Sunday, but he's always been someone where his glove is almost up here and hiding from his face. And now, after getting kind of bopped around, and he claims he wasn't tipping his pitches, but the Yankees were all over him, so he made this adjustment where now the glove is more on his chest situation. And I asked him if that's still comfortable for him. Is he getting used to a new position? I mean, he's been pitching pretty much the same for his entire career. And, when you're a pitcher, you're a creature of habit, and you're trying to figure out, the best ways to be effective, and then you're going to completely change the way you're going to throw. And he said he's still pretty okay with it. He likes the way it feels. I know 5 innings, 4 hits, and, only 70 plus pitches a day. So he probably obviously could have gone out there for another inning. He wanted to go out there for another inning. They told him that, hey, there's going to be some lefties coming up here. We knew this was going to happen. Unfortunately, it's going to come a little earlier than maybe he expected. But regardless, Paddack has kind of been one of 2 things. If you look at all of his game logs this year, he either has gotten absolutely just murdered between the Yankees and Orioles, and the other starts that are sandwiched in there are basically 2 runs or less, which is all you can ask for from a starting pitcher. So, Paddack, certainly not on the level of the Joe Ryans and the Pablo Lopez's, but for the most part, he has given the team quality starts, and you saw that on display again here today against the Rangers.
Well, and you said it, Dex. Well, not officially a quality start. It was exactly what the Twins needed. Yeah. You want to have your starting pitcher put your team in a position to win a ball game. And while Chris Paddack didn't go longer than the 5, he did exactly that. Again, we know that this Rangers pitching staff is different, but their batting lineup relatively is the same as what won them the World Series a year ago. When you have Semien and Seager and Lowe and Garcia at the top of your lineup, you're going to win more games than not. But look at what Chris Paddack has done at home. We've talked about it in the past, and we talked last weekend about his struggles on the road. Look at how well he's done at home this season. 3-1. That record, of course, wins, losses, not a pitcher's stat, but still worth noting. ERA at 2.73 through 6 home starts this season. That's pretty good. If your starting pitcher can go out there and throw that level of consistency in home starts, even if he doesn't have the length that you'd like to see, Thunderberg was great in relief today. As long as you can get to Jhoan Duran in that back half of the bullpen in a winning situation, that's all that matters. And again, another great win by the Twins today and a great outing by Chris Paddack.
So on Duran, because there's been a little bit of concern with some velocity dipping. Today, it's kind of, again, trending back in the right direction. On Friday, yesterday, you saw it also trending in the right direction. We asked him about that in postgame, and he clarified he has no no physical issue. It's been a mechanical adjustment for him. And he started to make some tweaks after the Washington appearance from earlier last week. And now he's kind of feeling the best he has felt mechanically. And then now it's starting to translate into obviously some more high velos on that fastball, which is one of the best in baseball. So personally, I would not be panicking necessarily about Duran's velocity being dipped around here. He was, again, going through a different little stretch of mechanics, and he was coming back from an oblique injury, so I know there was a physical injury to start the year, but good signs. Like, if Duran's going back-to-back, and he's obviously going to be very, very obviously unavailable tomorrow for the series finale, but if he's able to go back-to-back, he feels physically right, and that fastball continues to climb up. I mean, typically you're worried about guys' velocity going down over the course of a season. Duran might be still not even peaking yet with his velo, so a little bit of an update there. I wouldn't be too concerned with Duran's velocity. He's obviously one of the best closers in baseball. I know he's gotten hit a few times early on so far, but I think positive signs from Duran from here on out.
Well, I think the biggest thing, as with today, if you can go out in a high leverage situation and throw a limited amount of pitches, that does well for getting that pitcher's confidence back. You mentioned he's not going to be available tomorrow. Hopefully the Twins offense puts them in a place where they're not going to need a closer tomorrow. But at the same time, you like what you've seen out of Duran. A couple of rough starts in the last 2 weeks, but still very solid. Velocity's up. 6 pitches today was all that he needed to get through the 9th inning. And you continue to like what's on that back half of the bullpen now that they're returning back to full health.
Yeah, and Griffin Jax, I think, pitched 3 of the last 4 days, so he was probably unavailable today. We'll see if he maybe pitches tomorrow. But maybe one more thing here on Extra Innings. Hit the like button, subscribe button, too, for Extra Innings content on this YouTube channel and the podcast feed. The Twins had plenty of opportunities to try to bob Lorenzen early, and they weren't able to do that. And you thought, maybe, is this going to come back to haunt them? And obviously, it almost did up until the Rangers bullpen kind of imploded there after the weird injury from Lorenzen. Tomorrow, going forward, it's certainly not going to happen every single time. When the Twins do get runners on early, they have to cash in. It's not just drawing a walk with the bases loaded. That was a great AB from Jeffers. I'm certainly not knocking him necessarily for just taking and working the walk there. But if you leave those runners on, which the Twins, I believe, were 1 for 6, 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position before busting this game open, you can't leave the Ducks on the pond, man. So if the Twins do get runners on early, for God's sakes, I know it's easier said than done, knock them in so you're not obviously sweating there in the middle innings when the other team's inevitably going to start scoring some runs of their own.
Well, I think, too, you look at what the Twins have done, and maybe it's, baseball has a ton of stats where at the end of the day you have to sort them through and say, do they really matter, do they not? Minnesota, 19th of 30 teams in major leagues this season in batting in day games with a batting average of .233. In terms of when the bases are loaded, though, that's another opportunity where you're looking for how do they score when the bases are completely full. It's an area that they still need to capitalize on. 30th of 30. With a .125 batting average with runners on all 3 bases. And so they need to start getting those execution plays because, we're here in late May, but you need to hit with the bases loaded in June. You need to do so again in July because great teams win when they're able to drive runs in from all 3 bases on the diamond.
Last thing before we say goodbye in Extra Innings, Royce Lewis in the lineup for the St. Paul Saints in Buffalo tonight. He'll bat second. He will play DH. The Saints will finish that series tomorrow. I would envision Royce maybe getting a crack at third. Maybe it's just DH. The Saints are off on Monday. They will remain in the state of New York before playing the Rochester Red Wings for 3 games after their off day Monday. There's been no update. Obviously, Royce has not swung a bat in a affiliated or Major League Baseball game here in almost 2 straight months. So we'll see what the plan is for him, how long that rehab stint works. But Royce Lewis, if you have a subscription to Minor League Baseball, if you're able to watch, you will be able to see Royce Lewis play for the St. Paul Saints. And when he does come back, Alex, hopefully provide some of those big knocks that they're going to need early on and in clutch situations. Kirilloff was a hero today, but as soon as they get Royce Lewis back, it just feels like, there's like an exhale of, oh my gosh, now we're going to get our star player back in our lineup. We've been able to remain over 500. Good things coming from there.
Well, and that's what made Royce so special last fall, where he was able to get the big hits and put runs on the board early. I think that with the injuries that Royce Lewis has had, I wouldn't mind if Minnesota takes their time in working him back slowly. I don't think that you need to rush him back by any means. But at this point, we were told a month. Now it's 2 months. You have to start thinking about when are you going to be able to get him back, because it's a missing piece in this lineup, a lineup that needs a guy like Royce Lewis to keep the line moving. They've found some solutions here and there, but in that 125 with bases loaded, you can add that by adding a Royce Lewis, whose bat we know is phenomenal. It just has to get back up to speed quickly. You know that the potential is there. You just got to put him back in the lineup, and hopefully sooner rather than later, as long as they're safe and cautious about it.
Amen. Yeah, and I don't, the roster decision that's going to come there is going to be very interesting. Do they sacrifice a pitcher for his spot? Sadly, a lot of the times these situations happen where an injury will kind of unfortunately take place right before the roster moves, and it just makes it easier to place a guy in the IL. He takes his move. But you can't send down Jose Miranda. Like, Jose Miranda's been phenomenal. Do you DFA one of these veterans in Margot or Farmer? I also don't think that's plausible. Larnach wasn't in the lineup today. He has been battling a foot injury. I don't know what the roster move is going to be. Personally, as much as I think a lot of fans or the managers want to do it, I would sacrifice an arm in that bullpen. I would probably send down Funderburk. Now, it does leave you a pitcher short. It still gives you two lefties, though, in Thielbar and Okert. That's going to be a tough decision for them, especially if there's not really an injury to force their hand. I'm very curious on what that does look like when Royce Lewis is activated from his rehab stint.
And I think that what you have to do, if you're going to trust that, or you take that guy out of the bullpen and use one of the options on somebody, send somebody down, looking at the month of June and all the way through this Memorial Day break, you have 3 off days in the entire month of June. So you need to be able to get depth out of your starting pitching. Granted, that's what we've seen out of Minnesota so far this year. They've been able to get depth out of their starting pitching, so you don't have to rely on the bullpen as much. But, again, we talked about last week, Dex, the schedule for Minnesota gets tricky at the start of June, where if you're playing Houston, if you're playing the Yankees, and nobody knows what you're going to get out of that series at PNC Park, you need to be able to have that emergency option. So that's also part of the reason why I don't think you want to rush Royce Lewis back, just because at least get into that road trip, that 3-city road trip, before start thinking about, okay, when can we put Royce Lewis back in this lineup? Obviously, you want him back quickly, but I don't know that I would personally sacrifice the pitcher here for the extra bat.
Yeah, man. Going to be a very I'm glad I'm not the one making the decision, that's for sure. So we'll see what that decision does look like. We'll update you, and we'll obviously provide as much insight as we can once we do learn more. Hit the like button, hit subscribe button. That's Alex Wested. I'm Declan Goff. This is SKOR North Extra Innings. You can expect content from the majority of Twins home games. Appreciate everyone watching, listening, liking, enjoying your Memorial weekend as you enjoy some extra Twins content. We'll be talking at you later this weekend.